Hello and welcome! My name is Kat, and today I'm going to share an example of my 3-act, 9-block, 27-chapter outline method. Last week I posted a brainstorming video where I developed a story idea, and at the end of that video I was like, this is the point where I'd start writing it down in outline form. So here I am to show you what that looks like. How do I outline? Before I get into it, I want to thank Underlined for sponsoring this video today. Underlined is an online community brought to you by Penguin Random House for both readers and writers alike. It's a place to discover new books and connect with other readers and also connect with other writers and share your writing. I'm currently helping to host a writing contest with them, which ends September 7th, so you do still have time to enter if you would like to. I'll link my previous video down below where I talk more about the rules and share my writing prompt for the contest. I do also just recommend watching that brainstorming video before this one, just so you have more context for the story that I'm going to be outlining. But of course, I will be explaining the story as I outline, so you should be able to follow along even if you don't watch that video, but I recommend watching it. Go watch it. Okay, let's get into it. First, I want to do a basic overview of this structure. So I start with 3 acts, a beginning, a middle, and an end. And then I further divide those. And I give each act its own beginning, middle, and end. And I call these 9 things blocks because I don't know, that was the word that stuck in my head. Each block has its own kind of arc, its own story pattern, which is just a very general story pattern. Basically, we start with a stasis, and then something happens to disrupt that stasis. And then we react to that disruption, and we struggle to find a new stasis. And this cycle just repeats over and over again in a story. And this is why I like to divide each block into thirds again, because it's already kind of divided into thirds naturally. Like, that's just how story flows, beginning, middle, end. And I call these 27 parts chapters, just because I feel like that works. Of course, the actual chapters in a book can be divided differently, but I like to use the 27 as kind of a baseline. If each chapter is 3,000 words, that's about 15 pages, which feels like a good length for a chapter, and that makes for an overall word count of 81,000, which is a great place to aim for as far as word count goes. But anyways, let's start at the beginning. Block 1 is the introduction, the inciting incident, and the fallout, the immediate reaction to that inciting incident. Block 2 is the longer-term reaction. It's usually a rebellion against the changes the inciting incident has, well, incited. Then the protagonist takes action, because that's what protagonists do. Protag's gonna protag. And then, of course, there is a consequence to that action. In block 3, we have pressure increasing because of those consequences. Then we have the first major plot twist, and we are pushed into the new world of the second act. In block 4, we get to explore this new world and have some fun and games as we play around in this new situation. And to balance out all the new stuff, we also have some juxtaposition, some reminders of the old world. In block 5, we have another pressure chapter as we build up to the midpoint. And then, of course, we have the midpoint. And following that is a reversal, a turning point. We're in the second half of the story now, and there is no going back to the old world. In block 6, we have another reaction/consequence kind of chapter. Then another action chapter. This action chapter can also be thought of as trials. Like, the protagonist is being tested in new ways, but they often succeed, or at the very least, they come out of the trials more determined and dedicated than ever before. In block 7, we have the calm before the storm, which actually is not super calm because we're building up lots of pressure and tension as we move toward the second major plot twist, which ruins everything and is immediately followed by the darkest moment, the dark night of the soul. All hope is lost. But in block 8, No, it turns out hope is not lost because we have a power within that brings the protag back from the brink of death and despair. Then the protagonist takes action and rallies the troops and sets into motion the convergence of the storylines. Everything is building up and coming together for the finale. And here we are in Block 9, the finale, which is pretty straightforward. We have our final battle, the climax of the story, and at last our resolution and the ending of the story. So this is the basic outline skeleton, and now we're going to jump into our specific example. So let's start outlining this story about haunted tattoos and sisters who don't get along, and a murder mystery, and romance and competition. We have so much good stuff to work with. Let's start outlining. So block 1, introductions. We meet the two sisters, and they hate each other. They are opposites. The older sister is a perfectionist overachiever. The younger sister is a slacker mess. And then the older sister dies. And the younger sister's tattoo starts to bother her, and she feels like she's seeing glimpses of her dead sister. And the sisters come to realize that Ghost Sister seems to be psychically bound to the younger sister's tattoo. In the second block, we have the reaction/rebellion. The younger sister naturally freaks out because she doesn't want to be haunted, and she starts doing things to try to exorcise her sister. But nothing the younger sister tries works. So the sisters get the idea that younger sis has to help complete Ghost Sister's unfinished business. So now the younger sister has a mission and she can take action. She needs to get herself accepted into the elite program that her sister was previously in. The consequence here is that she is not remotely qualified for this program, so she has to really study and prepare so she can deceive the professor into thinking she's qualified. For block 3, we have this chapter of pressure. The younger sister is taking the test and doing this interview, and it's very stressful. But plot twist, it's not just a written test and an interview. There's also a hands-on mechanical engineering aspect. And, Ghost Sister can't really help with that because she's incorporeal. Somehow, she manages it. For the push chapter, we get the results of the test. The younger sister has been accepted into the program. She gets a quick tour of the lab, maybe meets some of the new people who work in the lab, and we are just pushed into this new world. Block 4, New World. This is a pretty straightforward chapter. This is the younger sister's first few days in the lab. This is her, learning things and spending time with these new people, trying to work on her sister's project and convince everyone she's qualified. For fun and games, this is where we start bringing in the romance. There's a relationship developing between the younger sister and someone else in the lab who just so happened to be the nemesis of Ghost Sister when she was alive. For the old world juxtaposition chapter, we can have the sisters arguing. Let's get to the root of what makes them fight. Ghost Sister wants younger sister to focus exclusively on the project, but younger sister wants to focus on the hottie in the lab. Moving on to block 5. For this pressure chapter, we want to have some competition pressure going on, but the main focus is the pressure between the sisters, this tension in their relationship, and it kind of builds to a big fight and a blowout. Maybe Ghost Sister tries to leave, she decides she doesn't want to help younger sister anymore because she's just fooling around, you're on your own. For the midpoint, we can have the younger sister trying to figure out things on her own, but then she discovers that the older sister was murdered. It wasn't an accident. It was murder. So for the reversal here, the sisters make amends. They talk it out and start to repair their relationship and decide that they are on each other's team. Yes, they have their differences, but one of them being murdered is enough to like really bring them together. For block 6, the reaction/consequence chapter, we have the younger sister going to the police and trying to report this murder, but they don't buy it. They need evidence, they need proof, they need something. So now we move into the trials. Now the younger sister is really investigating this murder. She's looking at everyone else in the lab suspiciously. Also, she might be a little bit nervous that she's the next target. Maybe there's even an attempt on her life, or like a close call, an almost accident that could be construed as an attempt on her life. Even though she doesn't find any hard evidence that she can bring to the police, she's still dedicated to figure this out. Like, now younger sister is really invested and involved in this. She's determined to win the competition and solve her sister's murder. For block 7, we start with the calm before the storm. There's a lot of stressful murder competition stuff happening, but at least romance for younger sister is going well. Like, at least the younger sister has one person she can trust. Plot twist! Love interest is actually the killer. Uh-oh. And here we are in the darkest moment. Younger sister has been betrayed. Maybe the killer destroys ghost sister's project and leaves the younger sister to die somewhere. All hope is lost. But then we move into block 8, and no, hope is not lost. We muster up that power within and we break free. We won't be defeated. We rally the troops. You know, maybe we call the police, we call another friend for backup, and we gotta get ourselves back into the competition. All of the plot lines start to converge together. The sisters have fully repaired their relationship and they're working together flawlessly. They make it back to the lab and it's showtime. We fly into block 9 where we have our final battle, the climax, and the resolution. Now, I don't really have a lot of specifics for this block. I don't really have a lot of specifics for the third act in general, but I at least have the first act, the first half or so, pretty solidly outlined. And the sketchy second half will solidify more the closer we get to it. Like, I don't even have names or personality details or anything worked out for the main characters. Things are definitely going to change as I progress with the story, but I have a nice general map here. But it is quite general in this overall format. So let's go back to the beginning. Let's go back to block 1 and take a look at what a more in-depth outline would look like. Because this is so vague, like, introduce the sisters. Great. How? So I've been brainstorming and trying out different possibilities in my head, and this is what I'm currently thinking. In chapter 1, we meet the older sister. She is in the lab, she's working on her project, interacting with the people in the lab who younger sister meets later on, and then older sister's experiment goes wrong and she dies at the end of the chapter. In the next chapter, we meet the younger sister who, maybe she wakes up with a start because her tattoo is hurting. But she doesn't think anything of it, and she proceeds to go about her day. We are introduced to her life. We meet her crappy roommate. We see her at her crappy waitressing job with her crappy boss. A couple times during her waitressing shift, she thinks she sees her sister. And it freaks her out a little bit because she hasn't talked to her sister in 3 years. So what's that about? And then her phone starts going off and the manager is yelling at her. Customers are annoyed, but her mom just called her 7 times in a row. So it has to be an emergency. And she answers the phone and she learns that her sister is dead. Next chapter. Younger sister is shook. The manager said she doesn't have to finish her shift, so she's heading home. She's on the bus, the subway maybe, I don't know. And she looks next to her, and there is her sister as a ghost, looking really pissed off and asking can you hear me now? Younger sister, of course, freaks out. She thinks she's hallucinating. Of course, no one else on the bus can see the older sister. The sisters discuss the situation and try to figure out what the hell is going on. Older sister says she can't leave. She tries to get away from younger sister, but when she moves too far away, her arm starts to burn. Her tattoo starts to burn. The sisters kind of piece it together that somehow, through their tattoos, they are psychically bound. The next chapter would be the longer-term reaction/rebellion chapter. This is the part where younger sister tries to do anything she can to get rid of ghost sister. Like, she tries to literally outrun her. Maybe she goes down to the local occult shop and demands answers and gets kicked out for being a punk-ass troll and not taking their work seriously. No, it's not a prank. My tattoo is really haunted, I swear. Of course, none of this works. It is not going to be that easy to get rid of ghost sister. And maybe ghost sister even tries to argue that. Like she keeps telling her younger sister, none of this is gonna work. And younger sister is like, fine, what's your brilliant idea then? So ghost sister suggests that younger sister has to finish her project. The next chapter is an action chapter, so we'll have the younger sister like going to the lab and demanding entry. Maybe she sneaks in and like tries to secretly work on her sister's project, and then she's told like, no, you can't be here unless you pass our very elite admissions test. So chapter 6 is the consequence to this. Now the younger sister has to study and prepare for this test and interview, and also the sisters have to spend time together, which is not a good idea because they don't get along, so they're constantly bickering while they're trying to like work together. Maybe younger sister's life and job are being negatively affected by all this. Like maybe the boss cut back her days and her shifts, and now she might not make rent. She can't focus on her waitressing job when she needs to be like studying so she can pass this admissions test and get rid of her sister's ghost. And this is just about the part where I could start drafting. Like, I do need a little bit more time to answer a few big questions, like what are their names? What point of view? What tense am I going to write in? I should probably figure out like what the tattoo is and what's the story behind the sisters getting matching tattoos and then having a falling out. I also need to develop the other characters who are working in the lab. And also I need to figure out what exactly is the sisters' project. Like, what is she working on? What is this competition? I need to figure out that part as well. But once I do a little more developmental work and I can answer these questions, then it's on. It's drafting time. All right, I think that is gonna be it for this video. There's a lot more that I could say because I just love story structure so much. I could talk about this for hours, but yeah, maybe I'll make more videos about the development of this story, this idea. If you guys would be into that, let me know in the comments below. And maybe give me a thumbs up too while you're down there. But yeah, that is it. So thank you for watching. I will see you in my next video. Bye!